welcome back to another episode of the Akashic Almanac Guidance from Within podcast. I'm your friend and host, Brittany Woods, bridging the seen and unseen worlds of our reality. I'm excited to introduce Noah Proudfoot. He is the singer, songwriter, and guitarist for Noah Proudfoot and the Botanicals. We talk about his creative process, what inspires him, how we can all trust our intuition, trust our inner guidance, how we can stand up for what we believe in. From a place of love, not fear or hate, and how we can create a better reality for all to live in. If you enjoy, please share, like, and subscribe. Hello everyone, I'm so excited to introduce this week's guest. Noah Proudfoot is the singer, songwriter, and guitarist for Noah Proudfoot and the Botanicals. So, living in Asheville, North Carolina for over a decade, Noah's heartfelt songs are a direct reflection of the people and places that have impacted his time there. Noah has studied poetry and is a certified yoga teacher. The aim for his music is to uplift and inspire while shining an honest light on the challenges of being human. So, wow, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I am excited.
I want to start off with, of course, talking a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today, but I do have a question for you. And when you say shining light on the challenges of being human, so what does being human mean for you, and what's your favorite part about being human?
Chocolate is my favorite part about being human. Someone told me that you can only find chocolate in this solar system on planet Earth, and I thought that was such a far out thing to say, but I believe it. That chocolate is intrinsic to planet Earth. Yeah, being human is great. It's great to be in the 3D and experience all the senses, and it's an exciting time to be on the planet. I feel like everybody's uniqueness is really needed during this time as we transition into hopefully a better, more sustainable way of being. Um, and your question was, oh, what does it mean to shine a light on the challenges of being human? Yeah, I think kind of a lot of the struggle in my music is personal struggle. If I can just be honest, I think one of my challenges is, I think like many people, dealing with the inner critic, and especially as an artist, I feel like artists tend to be hypercritical, not just of themselves but of their art as well. And so I think, um, yeah, over the years, I've kind of pinpointed this negative critic inside as the source of a lot of pain and suffering. And so, yeah, I think when I speak to the challenges, a lot of the times it comes to reconciling and befriending and reprogramming my thoughts towards myself and towards my world.
Yeah, I love how you call it the inner critic because I think it's so easy for everyone, no matter what they're doing, whether it's creative, or just like going to work that day, or being a parent, even, or being a friend. You can be really critical of yourself. So, and you said you try to change that by controlling your thoughts. What does that mean for you? How do you do that?
First of all, rely heavily on journaling. And if this is an issue for anyone, I mean, I can't imagine that it's not. I think we all have the inner critic. Being able to write those critical beliefs and those limiting beliefs down on paper and to see them and to feel how much pain they cause has been something I do routinely as kind of a checkup, just to see how I relate to them, how I feel about them. Do I believe them? Is it hard to challenge those thoughts? Kind of cues me into how deeply embedded they are in my belief system. So journaling. I've also developed kind of a fun way to reprogram my mind. I create positive affirmation tracks for myself. Like I'll create a song full of positive affirmations, and sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and blast it just to reprogram my mind with positivity. I think it takes extra effort in this day and age to make sure you're getting like your daily recommended dose of positive self affirmation.
Yeah, I totally agree, and journaling is a great tool to do that. I one thing that I also say within, like, my work and helping clients and people who can be really hard on themselves is to write it down. But not only write the negative thought down, but then you have to 180 it. You have to change it. So you can write the negative thought down, but then you have to reword it and change it into something positive so that you can, like you said, rewire the brain. So, yeah, I think that's awesome. And then journaling, right? Like you write your feelings and you're very self expressive. And I'm sure that goes into like all the music that you create. So tell us a little bit about Noah Proudfoot and the Botanicals and how you use your self expression through your music. And how did this band come about? Because I love the band and I want to know more.
I moved to Asheville in 2008, went to UNCA, and had been doing the singer songwriter thing. And in 2016, I put out my first solo album. And then a couple years later, I felt like it was time to get a band together. And it just so happened that my brother Ben moved to town. And so, yeah, we just kind of had had an instant, you know, well, let me back up and say, some other friends were involved in the project as well, and we just kind of started practicing and jamming, and yeah, it's kind of been a revolving door of friends ever since then, and constantly changing. And yeah,
Yeah, that's really fun. So I have to say, Turntable Tuesday is your most popular song on Spotify. But my personal favorite is Travel Light, and it's because of the quote, it's because of what you sing. It doesn't matter where you roam, knowing that the heart is home. And then you say, Travel light, love heavy. Can you tell me, like, what inspired that?
yeah. Um, I was coming out of a yoga class downtown in Asheville, and um, the guy who was practicing next to me got on his bike, which had a couple saddlebags on the back tire, and I asked him about it because they were pretty loaded, and he said that he had just biked from Portland to Asheville and was headed up to DC, and I just felt the sense of freedom on him. I mean, everything he had was in those two saddlebags, and I mean, obviously, he had a really positive impact on me, um, and yeah, just really um, inspired that line, and I feel like it can be taken literally and then also metaphorically, like relieving ourselves of emotional weight is lifelong process, and I think that just allows love to come through.
Yeah, of course. That's beautiful. How observant, right? Like taking in your surroundings for inspiration. What gets you going, right? Like, what gets you going when you wake up in the morning and you think, oh, I want to be creative or I want to write a song today? Like, what truly inspires you? Do you take a walk? Do you meditate? Do you do yoga? Like, I want to know more about your creative process.
I feel like I take a lot of inspiration from the moments, some of the juiciest moments of my life have occurred in transformational festival situations where you're spending multiple days with a group, either large or small, of similar minded people that are gathering to share knowledge, to experience almost like what life could be in a certain setting, where you're kind of living in a tribal way again. You're living on the earth, and you're, maybe helping out in the kitchen and sharing your gifts and workshops. And those moments have had such a huge impact on me since moving to Asheville. And yeah, sharing moments around a fire late night with people, and dancing until the sun comes up, in the woods, and swimming in waterfalls and camping. And so I feel like some of the music really tries to just capture that sense of freedom, when we leave the world that we've built here in the cities and get back to nature and each other, and really, yeah, try to live a little more freely and openly.
That's so true. I feel like the only inspiration we need sometimes is nature, right? Like Mother Earth. And speaking of, today's Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day!
Happy Earth Day. This is so exciting. I like didn't realize that we scheduled this until like I woke up this morning and saw all the posts. So this is really exciting. But yeah, Mother Nature, Mother Earth, she's very inspiring just in herself and she's very healing too. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Earth Day every day.
Earth Day every day. Yes.
Decade. I mean, we're living in an interesting moment, you know. I think um this interview is happening during the quarantine. I just was on Facebook Live and felt inspired to express my heart around what is happening on the planet, and it's a loaded topic. I mean, anybody that's been on social media lately has seen the division that's come up over a multitude of issues that have arisen from um, this event and the handling of it. And I mean, what's really been on my heart and mind is what I feel in my gut to be um, an opportunity for humanity to really stand up and start demanding the kind of world we want to see. And I think because we're doing that more and more, inadvertently we're bringing out the darkness. And I think um it is here on the planet. I mean, it doesn't take a you know a genius to figure out that our history is ripe with a lot of oppression and a lot of misuse of power. And I, for one, am feeling like this situation um has a lot more going on underneath the surface. And yeah, it's interesting um how to communicate my gut level feelings in this new climate, um, which feels like if it's not proven by science, then it doesn't exist. And that's really an interesting point that's come up for me because that science cannot prove that still is our reality. I mean, how can you prove love? How can you prove intuition? How can you prove yeah, I mean, anything that deals with the unseen realms, which I know you're familiar with. So it's bringing up a really interesting dynamic in our current sphere, like intuition versus like proven fact. Um, and we live in a quantum universe, which tells us that everything we relate with is is catered to our perception and changes based upon how we're seeing it, which is, I mean, it just throws out all science. It's very interesting. So I don't know. That's kind of where my mind has been this morning.
We are in such a transitional time and for humanity and for Mother Earth and for all. So I feel like I always have this not argument, but this with the work I do Akashic record readings, which is very energetic, and I do energy healing, which is all in the etheric field. You can't see it. Science can measure it. We can measure the chakras in the energy body as frequency, but you can't see the Akashic records. And I use that same thing of how do you know this is real? How do you know what you're doing is real? And I'm like, well, how do you know love is real? Like you can't see love, right? Like you can't see love, but you know it's real, and that's exactly how I can stand by the work that I do. And if it's not proven by science, it doesn't exist. That is an old pattern. That is an old way of thinking. I think the world is being really brought to its knees in the form of find your own truth. Find your own truth. Science has not caught up with, I would say, the modern like spiritual community. Science has not caught up with us, and they need to, right? Like, come on, like, you can prove energy healing. You can prove so many things that we just don't, science doesn't take the time to even try to figure out, really, because we're not focused on that. We're completely focused on other things. We're not focused on energy healing. We're not focused on um, greater things. So this is our time. This is our time to change health. It's our time to ask those deeper questions, to go within and find your own truth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, intuition versus proven fact. It's people are being asked right now to follow their intuition because it's time to do that. We can no longer keep going the way that we have been.
Your heart cannot produce fake news. Like, and no one can argue with your gut intuition. And you know, I don't know about other people, but um when you have a strong connection to your intuition and your heart, there is no need for an outside authority to tell you how to live. And I think there's a lot of incentive behind um, supporting these external entities that assume authority more and more so, it seems, over our personal lives and over our planet and over our resources, when really the only authority is our connection to our intuition, to spirit, to however we want to perceive a higher intelligence, a higher benevolent intelligence.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one thing, well, first of all, I have to say I love your heart cannot produce fake news. Like, your heart will never lead you wrong. When I was 16, I was in high school, so crazy. This lady came up to me random out of the blue. I didn't no idea who she was. And she said, "Never follow your heart. It'll always lead you wrong. Don't listen to your heart." And I, to this day, I mean, that was almost 10 years ago, and I still think about her and how broken, right? Like, how from a non-trusting point of view she must have been living at the time. And so your heart cannot produce fake news. Like, no, I she was wrong to tell me that. Your heart will always lead you in the right direction. So listen to it. Like, find your own compass.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Yeah, it's really a time for people to check in with their hearts. And another aspect of it is to express it, express what's on your heart. Like, if there's something, a burning desire to share something, then it's probably needed, probably for someone else to hear or experience. I think that's how spirit works, is it's infectious. That positive, truthful energy is so contagious that it seeks to be spread.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we should be focusing on when we think about being contagious right now, right? Like, we can think about all the negative, and energy follows thought. If the only thing we're thinking about is the negative things happening to us in life, the only thing the universe can provide for us are negative things, because that's where our energy, our intentions are. So change that. Change your intention. Positivity and truth and light is also contagious. So think that way. Draw that into your life because it's important.
Totally. Seek and ye shall find. What are you seeking? Is it the silver lining? Or, I mean, it's up to the perceiver, the seeker.
Yes, yes, yes. Also, you reap what you sow, right? Like, what you put out there, you're making your bed and you're gonna lay in it, right?
Mm.
So what do you want to put out there? And one thing that I has come up for me a lot with people I talk to and people who need guidance in this time right now is this comes up again and again. The only thing that you can control is yourself. You can't control you can't control other people, right? You can't control media, you can't control what you see, but you can control how much you see of it. What TV show are you watching? Like, what are you yourself tuning into? Media is huge right now. Like, where are you putting your energy? What are you focusing on?
Totally. Yeah. And that's an interesting point for me, because I think in that way, the spiritual community has become confused, because there's a balance with I don't know. I like, for example, like, oh well, don't focus on the coronavirus, because you're only bringing about more of it. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, um, if there is injustice occurring in your sphere, in your reality, it's your duty to confront it. And I think it's a point of confusion in the spiritual community, like, oh well, don't focus on it because you're giving more energy of it. The I think the point the Buddha made when he clarified this point and said, no, it's not that you shouldn't focus on it, it's that when you relate with it, you relate without attachment and you relate without emotion. So you still confront injustice and you have a responsibility to stand up for your brother or sister who's being oppressed, but you do it without hatred, you do it without anger, and yet you still stand up. And to do that, you have to place your attention upon the injustice. But I guess I just want to clarify that because it hurts me when I hear people throw that out as like, oh well, if it's negative, don't focus on it because you're giving more attention to it. um I think that can be used as a way to ignore the issues that are happening and the injustices that are happening on the planet.
You're right. Like we can no longer give ourselves excuses, right? Like we can give ourselves the excuse of, I'm just going to focus on the positive, so I'm not going to try to do anything about the wrong that's happening. Like, no, you can go into a situation with a level head and with love, right? You can go into a situation that's hard and not easy, especially with what we're going through right now, finding our own truth and seeking justice with love. You can do it from a place of love, but you're right, it can't be ignored.
Yeah, Gandhi stood up, Martin Luther King stood up, but they did it without hatred.
Mhm. Yeah, so all right, that's your message for your listening. You can't ignore, but focus on the love, right, that you can bring into maybe a darker time or a darker experience. You can bring love into it. You don't have to ignore it altogether.
Right, and I've thought about this. It's like, if you're in a relationship with someone who's treating you poorly, placing your well-being in harm, you don't just, ignore it or not focus on it. You say, hey brother, hey sister, lover, like, you know, I love you, and but the way you're treating me is wrong and not healthy. And I feel like in so many ways we are in unhealthy relationships um with our food, with um media, with our uh government officials, with the system. And so it's time now that we stand up and say, you know what, like, I don't hate you, I may not even judge you, but this is an unhealthy relationship and I won't allow this to go on anymore. Just as you would a friend who's like stealing from you. I mean, that's what's happening on our planet, right? It's being taken from on such a massive level that it's really time to stand up with that warrior spirit and say, you know what, this is the time.
Yeah, this is the time. This is exactly why we're going through what we're going through as the human race, right? Because it's time. It's time to grow and to reevaluate all of our relationships. Our relationship with Mother Earth, our relationship with our governments, our relationship with each other, right? Like people are being quarantined with themselves. Relationship with yourself. How can you build a better relationship with yourself?
So
Um, I think it all starts from within. And I have to touch on that too. I agree with everything, totally everything that you're saying. It's important to realize everything is a relationship and how can you work on your part of that relationship. And um, right now, I think is a great time to start working on the relationship that you have with yourself. What can people do right now while they're being quarantined and being forced to go within to like help us through this time?
I found it very relieving to step back from the grind, and I feel like probably a lot of people are experiencing some relief, even though it might be replaced with fear of job security. I think, and I see a lot of people getting back to the land, creating gardens, spending time outside. Um, it's a good time to, maybe dedicate a couple hours a day to not be on the cell phone. I've gotten in the habit of leaving it at home if I go out to the grocery store, if I go out, even to see a friend. If I know that I'm just not going to need it, I'll leave it behind. And I don't know about you, but when I don't have my cell phone on me for like 4 to 6 hours, I really feel this new level of clarity in my brain. It's like a physical thing. I don't know if other people experience that. It's like the dissipation of a fog, and I think that comes from just being so tethered to these electromagnetic devices. Um, and so, yeah, that's just great, leaving the cell phone behind. Um, and yeah, I think everybody's finding kind of their flow within this, and hopefully people are finding renewed passion for like creative projects. Um, I know I'm just having a field day, like making music and building the recording studio I'm working on.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. So be creative and turn off your phone. I get clarity when I'm not around my phone, and it could be just from like the blue light or the radiation. I don't know, but yeah, put your phones down, turn your screens off. Do something that's other than constantly looking at like a fake of blue light, right? Like this fake technological thing. It's not going to fill you up. So go outside. Like do something fun, do something creative, and um renewed passions. Find something you're passionate about. I love it. Yeah. I wanna ask you before we, go, I wanna know if there's anything coming up for you in the future as far as Noah Proudfoot and the Botanicals or anything, new music that you're working on, and I know right now is such a tough time to even think about a concert or live music, but anything that we should be on the lookout in the future for?
Yeah, I'm excited because I do now have this studio that I'm able to work out of, which streamlines the recording process. And because I have access now to record more music, I'll be putting out a solo, like acoustic um, EP, which my vision for is going to be a little more stripped down and kind of just personal and raw and real, kind of like maybe a campfire feel. Um, and yeah, just kind of bringing on home um, to my roots with just starting off on the acoustic guitar. And man, I can't wait for when the band gets back together. We had a lot of festivals lined up for this summer, and I was just so excited to turn a new leaf and get a lot of new arrangements out with the band. But I think because of this, we'll probably be making more live video content. As the studio comes together, we'll have a really good place to film. And so, yeah, solo EP will probably release a single with the band. Um, in the next few months, maybe another EP from the band this fall, but definitely an increase in the output of music and videos, and feeling very excited and very charged to create and just get stuff out.
Yay, I'm excited. I look forward to it. I will be waiting to listen. And for those listening today, you can find more information at noahproudfoot.com, Proudfoot Music on Instagram, and of course, Spotify and iTunes. Anywhere else they can contact you or reach you?
Yeah, so May 22nd, exactly 1 month from today on the new moon, I'll be launching a Patreon page. And what that is it's like a monthly subscription to videos that I won't be putting on YouTube or on Instagram or Facebook. And through that platform, I'm going to be going much deeper into topics like this. I want it to be a little more kind of raw and real. I'd like to discuss, the creative process, insight into how to develop one's career as an artist, um, as well as just doing other creative fun things like making funny skit videos, which is something I like to do, and releasing tracks to the people that subscribe, and really creating an intimate connection with the people on that platform. And I'm really excited to connect with people on a much deeper, more intimate level.
Wow, yeah, I will be checking it out 1 month from now, May 22nd. You got it.
There it is.
Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brittany.
A very big thank you to Noah Proudfoot for being on the show today, and a very big thank you to tuning in. I am excited for next week's episode, so be on the lookout for that one. Enjoy your week.